I would love to do real estate, but that's for rich people, for people with money, for people that golf with the local banker. Um, I'm a normal person. I don't have the resources to go out and just buy real estate. And I think that is absolutely untrue. I have never used a bank to buy any of the properties that I've owned.
Welcome to the 10-Minute Mogul podcast. I'm Adam Zucker alongside my incredible wife.
I'm Randy Zucker, and we're here to revolutionize your real estate investing journey.
We built our success from the ground up through determination, courage, massive action. We created a portfolio of motels, multifamily properties, and renovated over 100 homes.
We understand the challenges other investors face and know firsthand how tough it can be to pivot in the real estate game and reach that next level. That's why we developed a powerful method to help you prioritize your time, maximize your life, and build legacy wealth.
Let's spend 10 minutes together to change your life.
Welcome to the 10-Minute Mogul podcast. I'm your host, Randy Zucker, joined by my husband,
Adam Zucker.
Today, we have who we call at our house, Jonny Jepson, the creative finance guy. Welcome, Jonny.
Hey, guys.
You're here today because we can't have a podcast and educate you without you understanding that you don't need money to get into real estate. Jonny, why don't you go over a little bit about your background and how you got into buying your first building without any money?
Well, so that's a great way to start this. My background is in construction. I own two construction companies. Have been a GC for 25 years now, and I started to begin to think that I should, own real estate because that's what all wealthy people did. And so I started looking at buying real estate and realized that I didn't have the money to buy the real estate that I wanted. And I had a chance meeting online with a guy that told me I didn't need to have money to buy real estate. And at first I didn't believe him, but I took action and tried what he told me. And my first house that I bought, my first investment property, I bought with $300, no bank involved, and sold it 3 years later.
What was it?
Okay, so I bought a 2.5 in a on a 1 acre lot in a very nice area of town, surrounded by multi-million-dollar real estate, and I did a lease option, and so $300 option fee, and then a 6-year lease on that piece of property. And so I was able to get into that piece of property for $300, and then ended up making really good money on the property when I sold it after I'd held it for 3 years. But the biggest thing that the biggest objection that people give me when I first talk to them is, I would love to do real estate, but that's for rich people, for people with money, for people that golf with the local banker. I'm a normal person. I don't have the resources to go out and just buy real estate. And I think that is absolutely untrue. I have never used a bank to buy any of the properties that I've owned. And I've never invested more than $3,000 of my own money in any property that I've ever bought. And so I'm just going to tell you
My
that.
job.
Well, it's true. And the only reason I did the $3,000, there was a reason behind that. I didn't have to, but I was trying to prove a point to someone. So I could have done that deal with zero money out of my own pocket. And so what we find is that you don't need money. You need to find a deal, because money follows deals.
So could you just step back a moment? So let's just go over what is creative.
So creative finance, the way I would define that is buying a home well, really an asset. It's not a home. It's buying a house or a piece of commercial real estate without traditional financing methods. So a traditional financing method would be you put 20 to 30% down, and then you finance the rest with a bank or another commercial lending institution. So that would be it, that would be a traditional way to buy a house or a commercial property. Or you can pay cash for it, right? That's another traditional way to buy an asset. So creative finance would be not paying cash for it and not using a commercial lending institution, whether that be a bank or some other type of lender. And creative finance is a really deep rabbit hole that covers a lot of different areas of financing and deal structuring. But what we find is that you don't need money or even access to money. What you need is to become good at finding a deal. And I'm not talking about kind of a deal, like find a deal that other people want to invest in. Because money follows deals. So let me ask you guys this. If I brought you a bona fide deal today, would you invest in it?
Yes, we would. Yeah. I
Yeah.
mean, we love taking action. So,
Yeah.
um,
So if it was a real deal, though, not, I think this is a deal. I'm talking about a real deal with uh, an excellent rate of return, right? Um, you would probably invest, and I've got a list of people that I can call, and they would invest as well, right? But the reason that they would invest is because they know that I know how to find a deal. And so if you learn how to become good at finding a deal, you don't need money. And you don't
How
even
do
have,
you find the deal?
well, so if we're just starting out, um, and you haven't become quote sophisticated with finding a deal. Uh, the way I started was I told everyone that I met that I bought property. Everyone. I'd be in the bank cashing a check, and I'd tell the teller I buy property. Um, and I would tell my mailman I buy property. Um, and then I would offer $1,000 finder's fee. If you bring me something that I end up purchasing, I'll pay you $1,000. Well, everybody and their brother is going to be start sending you stuff because they all want $1,000. That's easy, right? You don't need to structure the deal for me. Just send me
yeah,
an
that's
address, and incentivize that person to send you an address. So tell everybody you meet you buy property. Everybody. Um, tell your mailman. Who knows who's getting foreclosed on? Well, your mailman. He does because he's delivering the notices, right? Um, you if you're if you have a particular
That's and always the
the
gardeners.
gardeners are,
The
yep,
gardeners always know the pool.
yep,
yeah.
yeah, any type of service industry is a great way to start, and those leads are free because you're not paying for them until you
So
purchase the
can you just
property.
walk us through like a sample of like you mentioned?
Correct. Yeah, don't use banks. um so what was the question?
I'm going in the backyard now to see if our pool guy is here. I'm gonna talk to him right now, offer him $1,000 to find me a property.
Right. So, Adam, I missed your question.
Yeah.
What was
So
the question?
another. No, I was just asking. So you mentioned you don't need a bank. A lot of people get hung up on the myth that you need the money. You need a bank to get started. But the quickest way would just be going directly to the seller, right? Can you talk about a seller finance strategy, like a
Sure,
typical creative finance strategy? We get an actual example of how it works.
sure. So I'll just walk you through my first deal, my very first deal. Um, I I had this house that was it was empty. It was listed on the MLS. I called the owner and I said, "Hey, how would you like to walk away from your house today?" Um, so the before we talk about the actual details of a deal, we need to kind of lay the groundwork for um, why someone would own or finance something rather than just asking for a check, a big fat check. Um, everybody's motivation for selling
Yes.
Hmm.
is different, right? So you have to figure out why they're selling or why they're wanting to move the property. A sale, a real estate transaction, is just an exchange of benefits. The seller is looking for certain benefits, and you, as the buyer, are looking for certain benefits. Oftentimes, those are different benefits. So, in the case of my first deal, The seller had moved out of the home. He was paying 2 mortgages. He had some financial stress in his life. So I said, how would you like to walk away from this house today? And he said, I would love that. I said, great. I'll give you $5,000 over asking. So now I'm overpaying him for the property. Now, here's the second thing that we know about real estate. You don't need money, but then the second thing is that price often doesn't matter if you can structure the terms. So I offered him $5,000 over asking, and we signed a 6-year option with a lease. So an option allowed me to legally control the property without owning it, and then a lease allowed me to do whatever else I wanted to do with the property. I could move into it, I could sublease it. What this allowed him to do was walk away from that payment, right? I was making his payment for him. But then I legally controlled the house without actually owning it, because an option is a title clout. So I solved his problem by making his payment, and then he was also cash flowing about $800 a month over what his payment was. So he was actually receiving cash flow. And then he also was, quote, selling his house for over asking. So he could brag to all of his friends that he sold his house for more money than what he asked for. And so that's one way you can buy a house without using a bank and, without actually putting any money into the deal. I mean, I think our option consideration fee was $300 on that deal. So, I mean, good Lord, you can't even go lease a house for $300. You've got to pay first and last month's rent and security deposit. So that was my very first deal, and there's some other details that went into that deal that we could get into that are a